As the old saying goes, the most dangerous animal is a wounded animal. And this weekend, we have two teams coming off a loss in desperate need to get back on the right track with the NC State Wolfpack and our own Florida State Seminoles. We're going to talk about that game and more on today's edition of Locked On Seminoles. Let's ride.
You are Locked On Seminoles, your daily podcast on the Florida State Seminoles, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome back to another edition of Locked On Seminoles. What's up, everybody? It's your boy Drake here, and today I'm joined by Mr. David Wise in the stream yard. Dave, what's going on, my guy?
Drake, I'm tired, but I'm eager, and I'm ready to be a winner again, you know?
I completely understand that.
Like Talladega Nights. I'm ready to just get back in the winners column.
I know, and our best chance right now is up against this NC State Wolfpack over the weekend. NC State is coming off a loss to Clemson where they lost 20-30. Shout out to the over from that one because it was a very close game. I actually spoke with it was a close game for a tight little bit, but I spoke with Kenton Gibbs of Locked On Wolfpack actually last night, and his thoughts on the game. He actually will be coming on our show later on this week. And one of the key things we'll discuss a little more when he actually comes on here and also today. But this game, feels like a game that, quite frankly, is a lot more attainable than the Wake Forest game. And also, to me, that NC State actually is a worse team than Wake.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Just at first blush, NC State, I think I described them a couple days ago as vanilla. Like they don't do anything different or weird or special. Devin Leary hasn't been great this year. We'll get into that. And they don't scare you as much as Wake does. Like Wake has the ability to put up 60 points in any given game. NC State's not scoring 60 points. That's not how that's going to go. So yeah, it just feels like an eminently more winnable game and a game that should be close late. So, you talked yesterday about these boys learning to win, and if they're going to learn to win, it's going to need to come at in a moment in crunch time in a close game at the end. And it just feels like this is going to be one of those games.
And we kind of saw that last year too, overall, right? Where Florida State, NC State traveled down to Tallahassee. Actually, I was out of the country. I was on a bachelor party for a shout out to Cam Cats, basically going hanging out in Atlantis. But we lost 28-14. But also, people forget that we had a lot of missing pieces from that team due to the Halloween flu. I think is that what actually was going on at that time. And to me, overall, it seemed that it was a lot closer game. And also, if we were able to stay that close with an NC State team that a lot of people are projected to be a top 15, maybe top 10 team heading into the season, that to me shows that there's something up with NC State that people don't talk about often. And one of the big things that basically I learned yesterday was, and also you kind of watch some of the games, some of the tape, is that their entire offense, you said vanilla, I say it's convoluted. I just say that it's not meshing at all, coalescing. When you see basically Devin Leary is being asked to do certain things that aren't to his strengths, it's very, very similar to how Mike Norvell wasn't able to scheme kind of around Jordan Travis. And now, when you see the offense of Tim Beck, the offensive coordinator at NC State, it appears to try to fit a square peg into a round hole.
Yeah, it's that feels right. Just watching them against Clemson, they haven't. We have this issue so far this year where the teams we're playing don't have much in terms of like common opponents or quality opponents that you're able to tell much from. Like, go look at NC State's schedule, man. What are we going to tell from their big game against ECU or Charleston Southern?
They almost lost to ECU. That's what
Connecticut. I know. Or Texas Tech. Like, I mean,
Texas Tech is actually a decent team.
Yeah, I know. Clemson obviously was their worst game of the season, but yeah, NC State, they don't have anyone elite on offense so far this year. They do not have a single player graded in the 80s on offense. That's not great. That's not what was expected out of a team that I think a lot of people believe was led by a quarterback who would contend for a first round draft pick. I think at this point in the season, you're thinking more about, is Devin Leary going to go, and would he go in the first couple days? And he hasn't played well enough to have the kind of NFL draft prospects that a lot of people thought and that he probably wants. But that's why it starts on the defense for NC State. They're they're a lot better on that side of the ball. They
I
they
mean,
are
yeah.
they are a good defense. We got to talk about that. But I mean, it's not a complicated game plan. You just, if their offense isn't good, you got to hold them. If you can hold them into the 20s, you should be able to score in the high 20s, low 30s on this team based on what we've seen from Florida State this year. So it's a pretty simple formula against a team that isn't very complicated.
It is a team that's not very complicated, and overall, to me, it kind of we'll talk more about offense, like kind of get into a little
Yeah.
deeper dive next segment, and end off the day also over with defense. But it all starts and ends with Devin Leary, and that was one of the things like Dave was alluding to, where he had all his offseason hype. He was the All ACC Player of the Year, actually from ACC Media Days, and so far he actually has immensely struggled. I mean, they've asked him like several times, "Will the real Devin Leary please stand up?" And at this point, he is bottom 5 in the entire conference in QBR with a 49. And it's actually kind of funny if you look at the list. I think Dave, you shared it in the group chat the other day. Whereas the entire conference is flipped when it comes to quarterbacks.
Yeah.
I want to say it was at the top, it was Drake May from UNC, Jordan Travis, Garrett Schrader, all names that we didn't predict to be up there. And you look at the bottom, it's names like Brandon Armstrong, Tyler Van Dyke, Frederick Kovic, Devin Leary, even Sam Hartman, I think, has regressed a little bit from this past season. So overall, you're seeing the dynamics of the entire conference shift when it comes to quarterback play. And it's like flipping on its head right now. You're seeing the more athletic quarterbacks actually are having a much better season this year. And overall, Devin Leary has been one of those players that has not met the test at all. And to me, if we're able to get to him, and that's going to be a big question, hopefully, I think Jared Verse showcased he actually is able to play a little bit more actually from the Wake Forest game as he played the second half on. To me, if we're able to disrupt him and make him uncomfortable, you will see those ugly interceptions he threw like he did this past weekend against Clemson.
Yeah, we're gonna dive deeper into this NC State offense next. But before we do that, I want to point out, I told you Tyler Van Dyke was going to be at the bottom of the conference for quarterback play. That guy is terrible. He is an awful quarterback, truly awful. Miami does not have a good quarterback on their roster. Everybody can calm down. Told you that was going to happen. I kept the receipts. I'm going to keep keeping them because they're going to keep sucking.
Well, sometimes David could be used to an unreliable offense, but you know who's not unreliable, Dave?
Who's that?
That was our friends and our new sponsor, our partners over at Nissan. Our partners at Nissan have worked with us to create a new segment across the Locked On College Network titled Thrilling Moments, where we highlight the most exciting play from the Seminoles weekend or throughout the history of our alma mater. This week's thrilling moment from the Seminoles is, to me, I want to point out Micah Pittman this weekend. That drop on the fumble was probably a great catch. That touchdown catch was great, but you know what? Then I think our thrilling moment of the weekend, thrilling moment of our history, I'm going to go back to the Kermit Woodfield touchdown return in the 2013 National Championship game because, Dave, do you remember exactly where you were when that happened? Because that was phenomenal for me.
I remember exactly where I was, and I remember exactly the goosebumps I get every single time I watch it.
It's phenomenal. And that radio call is just even better, too. And just seeing how, like, the first off, that kid was the fastest man alive. And that was basically a game where it felt like it was starting to slip through our fingers, but then you see come back. Like, this team just never quit. And that was a team that actually knew how to win. And I hope that the kids now can look towards them to see what it takes to be a real competitive, consistent, and great football team. This segment has been inspired by the thrilling new designs featured across Nissan's new lineup of vehicles. Pursue what thrills you in the all-new Frontier, Armada, or Pathfinder today. Folks, I had Nissan Altima. That was my first car. I had that for so long and then gave it to my cousin in Panama, and it's still riding to this day. A reliable car. And all those are available now at nissanusa.com. All right, Dave.
Yeah.
We are back. We are rolling here on Locked On Seminoles, your first listen each and every single day. Thank you guys so much for all the love and support. And don't forget, 5-star reviews on Apple, Spotify, Stitcher. Like the video, hit the subscribe button, tippy top, and ding the little bell so you know when new content drops. David, NC State's offense. I know you're the PFF guy. You got the grades. Give me the report card.
It's not good. You struggle to, if you were to just pull up their PFF, not know anything about their season, and look at that offense, you would. I'm trying to think of like you would think it's like Iowa,
It
honestly,
can't be
or
that bad.
it's
I've seen Iowa.
or
Like
like
they
you would think it's Wisconsin or Nebraska or something like that. Like one of those plotting Big Ten teams because their grades are terrible. Like I said, not one player graded above 80. You don't have a skill player graded 78 or above. Um, they have one receiver graded above 75.
is it there,
Uh,
Thomas?
it is Thayer Thomas. All
Okay.
their offensive linemen under 75. Um, it, just that is not very good. Devin Leary's graded under 70, including 66 for passing. He's graded higher at running than passing. He's almost graded as high at run blocking as he is at passing.
Yikes.
So again, their receivers have not played at a high level. Their offensive line has played decently, but not at a high level. Devin Leary has not played well at all. Just you don't you don't have to look at the advanced stats to know that 1,100 yards through 5 games for him on 62% passing, which is 3% down from last year. That ain't getting the job done. Passer rating 24 points lower than last year. 10 touchdowns to 3 interceptions. That's 2 touchdowns a game. Um, just not what was expected out of this offense. Really, their running backs are the only thing that have been going well for them. And even there, 262 yards leads their rushing attack. 170 is the next one. Like I said, there is nothing on this offense that should strike fear into your hearts. They don't do anything overly well, and they don't do much good.
And folks, if you like, one of the key reasons I think why this is actually happening is Emeka Emezi was probably one of their stalwarts actually along that
Yep.
offensive like wide receiver room primarily, and he's been gone I think to the NFL. He graduated, and now Devin Leary, he was sort of that security blanket for him. And so far, Thayer Thomas, the Glee Boy choir boy that we had that shredded us 2 years ago, he's as their leading receiver. To me, that's a Keyshawn Helton problem. Whereas Keyshawn Helton is a very solid, reliable, dependable player, but he should be not your wide receiver one nor your wide receiver two. He should be
Yeah.
your wide receiver three. As we're seeing right now with Pokey Wilson, who is actually excelling as a third option, even though Pokey Wilson's been playing like a wide receiver one. So actually, you know what? That could be wrong too as well. And then you look at the entire schedule that they've gone against. We said how Wake didn't go up against anybody until us. Sorry, until Clemson. You look at NC State's resume. East Carolina, they almost lost that first game. It's a rivalry game, but ECU is a kind of a middling, like slightly above average Group of 5 team. You have Charleston Southern. They beat them 55-3. You should beat FCS opponents by 50 plus points. Texas Tech is a good team, but you see the offense still struggle against a defense that, quite frankly, it's okay. Then you see UConn. You let UConn score 10 points on you. I'm not taking anything from UConn because UConn actually is a terrible team.
They
And then you
won
look at
last week.
Clemson, where the entire offense is showcased like on a primetime level that it is anemic, it is confusing, it is struggling, and it's not putting their best player in a position to succeed. And also with Tim Beck, they have a true, like I said, sorry, they have a redshirt freshman now playing on the offensive line, and basically how we were talking about yesterday, that Julian Armella, that Dave and I guess kind of brought on to bring him in. Like, do you want him playing against a Miles Murphy, a Brian Brzee, Xavier Thomas, KJ Henry? Tim Beck did that last week against Clemson with the redshirt freshman, and he struggled. So, folks, if you want to look and see reason why I don't want Julian Armella coming with that game, it's because they're limiting the offense, and that's the last thing we need to do with this offensive line. And to me, this is a team offensively that is not going to win them games. So
No.
I think this is where actually we have the edge here.
Yeah. Just the only thing I'll say to that point on Julian Armella, for example, is that NC State's defense is good, but their pass rush has been erratic. They only had 2 great.
We'll do defense next segment. We'll do
Well,
defense
okay,
next segment.
we'll get to the
Okay.
defense, but I do want to say I would much rather start Julian Arm if I would rather play Julian Armella in this game than I would the following game if we're going to play him in the next 2 games, because trying somebody against Clemson is truly baptism by fire. Trying somebody against NC State is a tough assignment. Big difference.
Yeah, that I could actually definitely see that. I could definitely see that. But Dave, do you know who actually is not a baptism by fire? Do you know where you guys should go to for all your best bets and all your betting needs?
Is it Bet Online?
It is our friends over at Bet Online, and today, Dave, you know what
Mm.
time it is, you know what day it is. It is the Fade Dave segment
Oh, it
of the
is.
week of the millennia of the day. I got probably bring that shorter. Dave, You are known as the big Jimbo Fisher guy here.
Yes.
Jimbo Fisher takes Texas A&M and travels to Alabama. They are a 24-point
Oh
underdog.
my God.
Yes, because Jimbo Fisher's offense has been left in the dust, in the time machine, has never evolved and never changed. What are you taking for this game?
All right. Obviously, you're going to take Alabama. Just kidding. You're not taking Alabama. You're taking Texas A&M. It's the double reverse jinx here. And I'll tell you why. I don't know if Bryce Young's healthy. I don't know. That other quarterback of theirs looked terrible throwing the football. Like, he looked like Uncle Rico from Napoleon Dynamite. Good runner. Great runner. Kid's the fastest kid alive. Can't throw a football. Texas A&M can't throw a football. Two teams that can't throw a football. Yeah, Jahmyr Gibbs is going to run all day, probably on Texas A&M. But 24 points is way too much to give when you're not even sure if Bryce Young's going to be playing or healthy. Yeah, give me Texas A&M plus 24. I want to make them erode those points from the start of that game.
You do know this is the same Texas A&M offense
I
that
do.
struggled against Miami's defense, right?
I sure do.
Are you positive you want to go with this?
I'm 100% sure. And I just want to say, I'm actually kind of confident in this one. So for fade purposes, take that for what you will.
For fade purposes, take that out you will, folks. Please head on over to Bet Online today and place your bet for plus 24 Texas A&M, aka please fade Dave, because I don't think he's actually seen how bad this offense has been
Oh,
all
I've watched
season.
it.
Oh no, you watched it and you still okay?
They
Dave
might
is a-
win this game.
I should just mute your mic from that. But Dave is a man of convictions. Dave knows no bounds. Heading over to Bet Online today. Bruce promo code locked on. That's LOCKEDON. And you get a 100% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Once again, that's Bet Online. Promo code locked on. LOCKEDON. Bet Online, where the game starts. And also, as always, fade Dave. Take Alabama minus 24 points. Okay, David.
Yeah.
We are in the home stretch. We talked about the offense. Started off the show talking about Devin Leary, how his command has been gone, his confidence seems to be gone, and his offensive coordinator is not doing him any favors. Let's talk to the point of the room that kind of scares us a little bit, and that's the defense. Tell me about the NC State's defense.
Okay. So, like I said earlier, briefly, their defense clearly the stronger unit between the two. They have 4 guys on defense graded over 80. Tyler Baker Williams on their defense. I don't know who that is. It's a cornerback of theirs. I don't know.
Good.
Yeah, he's very good. He's graded in 88. They have 4 guys at the top of that list: 2 cornerbacks, a linebacker, and a safety. Graded basically an 80 in coverage. So yeah, I can tell you really quick, their coverage has been weird. You got to go game by game for them. This is what I meant earlier by like their defense is kind of bipolar. Because their 2 good coverage games, for example, this year have come against Charleston Southern and UConn. So you got to dig further into this. They had terrible coverage against ECU, worst of the season. Bad coverage against Texas Tech, and bad against Clemson. I don't know how to explain this to you. They've been terrible tackling on defense every single game this year, except for Clemson. I don't know how you reconcile that, but you got to figure that out for yourself. Run defense, it's been good but not great. So this is what I was saying yesterday. If there's one place to attack this team, one obvious place to attack the NC State defense, it's going to be their run defense. And thankfully, like we've said ad nauseum, that is something we are well suited to do. It doesn't appease fans because when you're focusing on running the football, you're more likely to have drives stall. You're not going to score as quickly in all likelihood. It's not as sexy. But it's something we're extremely good at, both on an efficiency and an explosiveness basis. Our running backs are among the country's leaders in broken tackles and rushing grade. And this NC State defense is susceptible to giving up the run.
No, they really are. And that was one of the key points that Ken actually mentioned to me yesterday, where the run defense for them, it's really strange because they have a very strong defensive front. Not only are they strong, but they're a big, big defensive front. Probably one of the bigger ones besides Clemson that we're facing this year. And overall, he did say that with the run game, it's something that strangely, it's not out struggling, I think is the word, but it's like they just give up the random chunk play after chunk play after chunk play. They do really great on first, second down, but then on third down, they just get blown by. And then with Tyler Baker Williams, I don't think he actually has played the past few games. I think that actually he actually has been injured, and I don't know whether or not he actually will be available for this game, which could be in our favor because, like Dave, you're
Mhm.
saying, Tyler Baker Williams has been the lead. He's the leader of that secondary
Yeah.
overall, and you got him. You got Cyrus Fagan also in the safety spot too, he's been a very suitable rotational piece. Corey Durden along the defensive line isn't having the same season he had last year, but
Nope.
he's still as actually playing pretty well. And
No, he's
overall, to
not.
me,
He's
huh?
not. He's playing so bad this year. It's hilarious.
Oh, he's at 61. Oh, I read the wrong name.
24th best player on their defense this year. Yeah, no, he ain't going to the NFL. He'll be doing something else on Sundays.
And then one of the bigger strengths too, actually, of this entire team is their linebacking play. They bring back Drake
Mhm.
Thomas as a player. He's actually ironically Thayer Thomas is, I think, younger brother, older brother. I can't really tell anymore because there's three of them now on this team. And then you also have, I want to say it's Patrick Turner's another player too as well. That he's a freshman. He's someone that actually they want to build around, but I do believe that actually he's also hurt. So to me, this is a very strong, very well balanced defense from all levels. And this is something that is going to be the best defense we've played all year. And after seeing kind of what we saw against Wake Forest, it does bring some concern, but I definitely do see there's some openings for us to win this game where it comes to the rushing attack. And also, I do believe that this is a game where you have to force feed both Johnny Wilson and also Micah Pittman too. I think Micah Pittman has showcased on Wake against Wake that he is someone that is not to be trifled with, not to be messed with, and basically, I don't think they have the cornerbacks to basically stifle either of them.
Yeah. One stat I want to give you about this NC State defense that I really enjoy is they're missing they've missed 54 tackles this year in 5 games. So they're missing about 11 tackles a game. That was similar to the stat we said for Florida State yesterday or 2 days ago that we were not happy about. If we weren't happy about it, there's no reason that they should be or that anybody should be for them. Um, that again, that is something that Trey Benson and Treshaun Ward truly excel at. You see it on such a consistent basis at this point that it's not just that they made some good plays in that moment or in that game. That's who they are. Who Trey Benson is as a running back is a tackle breaker, and Treshaun Ward to a lesser but still substantial degree. So yes, their linebackers appear to be the strength of that defense. It's tough to tell much about this NC State defense right now because I believe it's played under its capabilities. I believe it's more talented than it's played, and it still hasn't reached its ceiling. So it could be one of those misleading situations where we look too much into it's not a small sample size, but the sample we're given thus far, and that sample just isn't correct, and they end up improving on things, which is the likeliest outcome by the end of the year.
Hmm. No, I mean, that kind of actually probably hits the nail right on the head. Like, they played pretty well, but I think we also a lot of people, including, the national media, had it this NC State defense is kind of like as like a juggernaut, right?
Yeah.
And that linebacking core, you're absolutely right, where there's the strength of this defense, and because they clean up everything. Like, the
Mhm.
defensive line kind of wears you down, and then you have Drake Thomas coming in there and just basically shutting everything else off. Because I do want to say that their run defense grades, I think when it comes to the linebacking core, it actually are pretty high. So overall, to me, that's actually going to where you're going to win this game. You need to get the second level, and you need to be able to win on your one-on-ones when you do get to the second level.
That's right. Yeah, and I'll give you one more stat to take home for you today. Drake, how many yards after the catch do you think NC State's allowed this year?
The double digits.
You give me a guess. Yards after the catch.
I'm gonna go with 17.
473 yards after the catch.
Oh, I was talking about average. Oh, god damn, really? 417?
Yeah, really. So look,
Yikes. Okay, that
Jordan
didn't know that.
Jordan's good enough that you're going to throw the ball even against teams that are better against the pass than the run. But boy, are these receivers of ours, if everybody that they've played, that NC State's played this year was able to do that, oh my God, should a guy like Johnny Wilson have a field day? Should a guy like Micah Pittman have a field day? You know what? I'm not going to pretend I'm going to pick a receiver that I have any idea who's going to lead Florida State in receiving this week, because it could be anybody. Probably going to be somebody we haven't even seen this year, or haven't seen much of. But what I do know,
Deuce
right,
immediately to my mind.
That's exactly right. But what I can tell you is, wow, just get them the ball in space, and let them cook, because that's going to be the way you beat that NC State defense through the air. So, quick formula here. Get the ball to the receivers in space. Doesn't have to be flashy. Let them run after the catch. Let those running backs cook, because that's what NC State has been worse at this year. That's your formula.
Let the wide receivers cook, and also let Jordan cook, because this is an NC State team that, like we said before, is I don't think worse is the better, but I definitely do think Wake Forest is the better team. And to me, with NC State, this is basically your most winnable game of the three. And 4-3, I think we'll be okay with, but we definitely won't be. It'll be leaving kind of a bad taste in our mouth overall. And I think 1-2 is easily attainable. If you're 5-2 heading to the bye week, you could have honestly have asked for anything better. But folks, thank you guys so much for making Locked On Seminoles your first listen each and every single day, and for joining us in today's episode. As I said before, we'll be having Kenton Gibbs of the Locked On Wolfpack podcast to come on as well to do a little more of a deeper dive and kind of give us the lowdown on NC State. He used to play there. He was one of Dave Doran's former first recruits. He was defensive line there. And he's got some great stories about him playing against Jameis Winston. But, Dave, before we head out of here, let the folks know what we're doing the podcast level, and also give them the YouTube instructions.
Absolutely. You can find these two beautiful silky voices anywhere you get your podcasts: Spotify, Stitcher, Apple, Google Play, and everywhere else. On YouTube, you're here already. If you're on YouTube, give this video a like. If you like it, you should like it. Subscribe to the channel. Ding the little bell at the top. Turn on your notifications. It'll let you know when our videos drop. And leave us a comment down below. What are you most looking forward to seeing against NC State? And what are you most worried about seeing against NC State? We want to see your comments. We want to hear them, and we want to talk about them.
And that was Dave. And this was Drake. And we'll see y'all next time on Locked On Seminoles. Take care, everybody.
Beat the Wolfpack. Just